Good evening. My name is Bob Barrows. I want to add my congratulations to Valeria on receiving the Artie Peffer Award. She really embarrasses a lot of us by what she has done at such a young age. It was my honor to be the chair again this year of the Sydney Barrows Lifetime Commitment Award. Sydney Barrows was my father. There are many in this room that still remember him. 3 traits distinguished and defined him: his love of learning, his professionalism, and his community leadership. It is these traits that the Sydney Barrows Lifetime Commitment Award honors and recognizes. It is hard to believe that this is the 16th year that the award has been given to a Twin Cities lawyer or a judge who exemplifies these traits. Many of the past honorees are here tonight. Their names are in the program, and they're shown on the screens. All of you know, or at least know of, our past recipients and their accomplishments as lawyers and their commitments as Jews, both to our local community and to Israel. How they have conducted themselves adds definition and meaning to the Sydney Barrows Award. I know my father would be honored to have Alan and Mickey's names tonight linked with his name. Roseanne Nathanson, a past recipient and somebody that I used to practice with, taught me a proverb a few years ago, and I have included it in many of my introductions of this award. The proverb says, "If you want to go fast, go by yourself, but if you want to go far, go with someone." Each of the past recipients and tonight's awardees are people with whom you can go far. Each is a mensch, each is decent, says the right thing, does the right thing, and is in every way honorable and responsible. Tonight it is my pleasure and honor to present this year's Sydney Barrows Lifetime Commitment Award to 2 real mensches, Alan Silver and Mickey Greenberg. I do not remember if I was ever on the same side as Alan, but I do recall when we were on opposing sides. I do not remember being against a more honorable attorney. Alan, like our past awardees, always found a way to balance his very active professional career with his community involvement. Whether it was at the JCRC, where he has been active for more than 20 years, including time on the board and as its president, or Temple Israel, where he also was on the board and was the president. And some Friday nights, if you go there, you can still listen to Alan playing his guitar at Friday night services. I don't know if he brought it with him tonight. And now if you'll turn your attention to the screens, we'll see a tribute to Alan.
As trial lawyers, we all have sort of personalities that we project to the outside world and to other lawyers. But Al's one of those lawyers that how he appears to lawyers outside of our law firm when he represents clients, he's the same inside the law firm. He's a very caring, considerate, thoughtful, intelligent, really terrific partner and to have and to work with.
Al and I tried the infamous Galloway trust case together, and we were supposed to be in trial for 3 weeks, and instead it went on for about 42 to 46 days. The legend grows as the years go by. He was a great mentor during that time. I got to watch him manage a large litigation and learned a lot about how to do that.
If I were to describe Al, I would say he's probably the most precise reasoning lawyer that I've ever worked with. And as he gets into things, he's open-minded, looking at the component pieces of every lawsuit.
Al is a well-rounded person, so he has the intellectual ability to deal with the most complex issues, the technical issues, but he also has the human touch. He understands how people think. He's really a good observer. He's a student of human nature, and that has really informed a lot of his work over the years.
And I would say because of that passion for learning and helping people, he's become probably, in my view, the premier probate and trust litigator in the state of Minnesota.
My perspective on presidents is that the right person always shows up at the right time. And Al was absolutely the perfect president for the historic period of time we have been in and continue to be in. Al is on the bima every Shabbat morning playing guitar and being a part of the congregational life and the life of our B'nai Mitzvah students like no other president. That makes him unique to any other president.
Unlike a lot of lawyers, when he has a brief to write or some important written document that needs to be submitted in a case, even if he assigns it to a younger lawyer to do the initial drafts, he is very much involved in the process. And I'm sure that you could find some younger lawyers around here that would tell you to the nth degree. So he takes it very seriously, expressing himself in writing.
Alan came to work at Doherty Rumble Butler. I was in the litigation department, and I hadn't been working with him at this point. But he came to work from KSTP. He had put the script together for the anchor people. Well, anyway, Al came to work at Doherty Rumble Butler, and because he'd done all that work, he was a fine typist. So rather than dictating to secretaries, Alan would type away and type very, very well. That went on probably for about 3 months. Then the managing partner, Irving Clark, came into Al's office, pulled the door shut, and said, "Alan, you're a lawyer now. Lawyers don't type. You have to learn to dictate. And Alan, you're doing well here. We'd like you to do that, but drop the typing." 30 years later, every lawyer types.
He really enjoys being a lawyer, and I know a lot of people who are lawyers, people my age and also people, older and people maybe even of his generation who are lawyers, and they do it and it's fulfilling, but they don't love it. But I always got the sense from my father that he's like as happy with his job as being a lawyer of any lawyer that I know.
I don't think I've ever asked my dad a question and the answer has been yes or no. It's always been, well, if these were the facts, or if this was the case, or in this scenario, or he looks at things from all angles, always.
Outside of the work and our family, he's always been involved in other things. I think he feels it's important to make a contribution. He had been a board member of the JCRC for a very long time. So I think that he has distinguished himself in the community at large as well as in the legal community.
His wisdom, courage, and advocacy for children are a shining example of the best in public service. His leadership continues to have a tremendous impact on generations of students and their families.
Well, he's someone that's very interested in everything. He's someone that wants to read as much as he can. It's hard for him to go to bed at the end of the day because there's much to be learned and striving for knowledge of things.
I genuinely think my dad is one of the only people who loves to work. He loves to work, which is something that I don't think you find very often.
Well, at the heart of Judaism is law. It helps to have somebody who thinks like that and who really analyzes things through a legal lens, because the Talmud, the Mishnah, the Gemara, the rabbis all were basically lawyers in their thinking, and so it's very Jewish to unpack things through a legal lens, and that's something that Al gave us.
We work with many fine lawyers, both here in the Twin Cities and also across the country. But Al is in a class by himself, and he is the first call that we make, usually when we really find ourselves faced with a significant litigation issue. He's just a superstar. We are very fortunate to have his counsel.
a major figure in my life of being attentive to the ethical call of being a lawyer and attentive to representing clients broadly and effectively.
And I caution you also to take the one with your name on it, not Mickey's name.
Okay, I'll do my best. Wow, this is pretty awesome. I want to thank you, Bob, and the Cardozo Selection Committee. It's really overwhelming and humbling to be chosen for this award, and I want to thank all of you who are here this evening. I also want to congratulate my co-recipient, Mickey Greenberg. Mickey, I don't have a joke that's nearly as funny as yours, but I'll do my best. And then the recipient of this year's Pfeiffer Award, Valeria Chazen. A couple of months ago, I received a 2016 calendar in the mail. It was one of those calendars that starts with the last couple of months of the prior year. And since November 19th was kind of important to me this year, I immediately turned to November to see if there was anything going on November 19th. And I saw that today, November 19th, is the 152nd anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. And I thought, well, gee, I'm giving a speech that night too on November 19th. Now, the Gettysburg Address, as you all know, is generally acknowledged as one of the most eloquent and inspirational speeches of all time, and also one of the shortest, less than 2 minutes. And rumor is that Lincoln wrote it on the back of an envelope while traveling on a train to Gettysburg. I'm not sure historians agree with that, but that's the story. Well, I can guarantee you that my speech tonight is not going to be as eloquent, and although CardozoSociety would probably like it, not as short, and I'm sure that no one is going to remember it in 152 years. But in honor of the occasion, I did write some notes on the back of an envelope. I'm not sure there was legal size envelopes back in 1863, but I've done my best. So it was 0 score and 11 months ago when Bob Barrows called me and told me that I had received this award, and I was incredibly honored. I remember going to this dinner over the years and never dreamed that someday I would be standing here and joining the list of recipients, many of whom are my heroes in the legal profession. As I stand before you tonight, the one word that keeps coming to mind is gratitude. I have had more than my share of good fortune and so much to be thankful for. This year in his Rosh Hashanah sermon at Temple Israel, Rabbi Sim Glazer spoke about gratitude. And he quoted no less than Albert Einstein, who said that I have to remind myself a thousand times a day of how much I depend on other people for my success. Well, one of the advantages of receiving a lifetime award is that it gives you the opportunity to reflect upon those that have helped shape you. And I'm so very thankful for the many people who have been so important in my life. First and foremost, I'm thankful for my wonderful family. My wife, Janie, has been with me at every step along the way. And after 42 years of marriage, she's the one that deserves the Lifetime Commitment Award. My son Stephen and his wife Rebecca are here. They live in Philadelphia with my 2 grandchildren, Noah and Jonah. My daughter Amy, who you saw in the video, and her husband live in San Francisco, cannot be here in person because Amy's expecting her first child in early January. But she is watching us as we speak on FaceTime, so hello, Amy. I'm also thankful that I've had the privilege of being a partner in 2 outstanding law firms, Doherty, Remele, and Butler, and then for the last 15 years, Bassford, Remele. When Ron Zemansky received this award a few years ago, he sponsored a table in honor of Doherty, Remele, and Butler so that it would live for yet another evening. I was very touched to this, and tonight there is yet again a Doherty, Remele, and Butler table at this dinner. And when Doherty closed, I was so very fortunate to find the Bassford Remele firm. The timing was right. Bassford was becoming a full-service litigation firm, and my business litigation and trust litigation practice fit beautifully into the firm's practice. I want to thank all of my partners who are here this evening for being so supportive. And I've had the opportunity to be involved in my community, both the broader community, the educational community, and the Jewish community. The work I've done for the St. Louis Park School Board, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and Temple Israel have been among the most rewarding experiences of my life. And also, as I look back on my 40 years as a lawyer, I've been fortunate to have so many kind and talented mentors and models. The first was my uncle, Melvin Silver. My father died when I was only 8 years old, and he had gone to law school but was forced to leave before graduating because of the Depression. And my mother always told me that it had been the greatest regret of his life. His younger brother, Melvin, became a lawyer and practiced law in downtown St. Paul for 70 years, from 1928 to 1998. If I do that, I'm still at mid-career. And although my daughter mentioned in the video that I like to work not that much. But Melvin served on the St. Paul School Board in the late 1940s and early 1950s. And at election time, my mother and all the family members would call up Melvin and they'd ask him who they should vote for because, after all, he was a lawyer and he would know. And so I grew up believing that law was an honorable profession and that being involved in the community was just something that lawyers did. I joined Doherty, Rumble, and Butler in 1975, and I was blessed to have two great mentors, Gene Warlick and Joe Finley, two of the finest men anyone could ever work for. Gene hired me to work on a huge antitrust case, the Hams beer litigation, but the problem is I'd never even taken antitrust law in law school. And I remember on my first day, Gene was telling me about this case, and he was saying that it was a distributor termination case. And my question was, what's a distributor? And I'm sure that Gene wondered why he had hired this young, naive kid who didn't seem to know anything. But in those days, antitrust law was governed by a lot of rules that really didn't make a lot of economic sense. And I actually had the advantage of not knowing any of those rules. So I would just make suggestions to Gene about what I thought was common sense. And he would say things like, Al, that's brilliant. You're saying that because of elastic demand and low barriers to entry, that what our client's doing is not anti-competitive. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but I would say, sure. And he would give me the credit. And I also worked with Joe Finley, who was a friendly, jovial Irishman who loved to tell a great story and knew just about everybody in downtown St. Paul. I remember when I first started at Doherty, I asked him whether I needed to write a confirming letter when I had obtained an extension of time to answer a complaint. And he said, well, if it's a St. Paul lawyer, no, but if it's a Minneapolis lawyer, get it in writing. And later, Rick Wilhoit asked me to work on the Hill Trust case for what was then First Trust Company with my partner, Boyd Ratchey. That was the start of what has been a wonderful 25-year client relationship with First Bank, now U.S. Bank, and a 25-year friendship with Boyd. I'll always be grateful to Rick and also to Boyd who helped me develop the trust litigation practice. And Boyd, though, retired before it really took off. But he didn't really benefit from that growth, but instead of being jealous, acted as my greatest cheerleader. Rick later asked me to work on a trust case for the heirs of the Kermet Pasta Company and many other trust and estate cases. So I evolved from being an antitrust lawyer to a trust lawyer. I like to say that I changed sides. And if you're not a lawyer, one will explain that to you. To me, being a lawyer has never really been just a job. I've always felt that it was a real privilege to be a lawyer. I remember being sworn in back in 1975, standing before the Minnesota Supreme Court, and my Uncle Melvin moved my admission, and I felt so proud to be a member of the bar. And, 40 years have passed, but I've never lost that feeling. I still get a thrill when someone calls me about a new case and gives me the honor of asking me to represent them, to speak for them, to represent their interests. And at this stage of my life, even though I've done it hundreds, if not thousands of times, when I'm walking to court, particularly when I go to that grand old courthouse in St. Paul, my mind flashes back 25 years walking down Kellogg Boulevard with Boyd to try the Hill case or some of the other cases. And I still think about what a privilege it is to be a lawyer. In his Gettysburg Address, Lincoln was dedicated in the battlefield where so many had fallen, and he said, "It is for us, the living, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced." As lawyers, we must also be dedicated to the unfinished work of providing justice, and as Jewish lawyers, to tikkun olam, the unfinished work of repairing the world. So I want to again thank the CardozoSociety, the selection committee, and all of you for being here this evening to share in this wonderful evening. Thank you.